I never thought I'd hear my own family plotting against me. But that afternoon, everything changed. I was standing in my kitchen, hands dusted with flour, going over my notes for the wedding buffet. For months, I had been saving, planning, making lists. This was my son's big day, and I wanted it to be perfect. I had already promised to cover the food, the decorations, even the flower arrangements. It was going to cost me thousands from my retirement savings, but I didn't care, because it was for my son. For family. And then, I heard my name. At first it was faint. I froze, listening. My son Marcus was outside on the phone, pacing the patio, but the voice that caught my attention belonged to Tiffany, his fiancée. She was speaking to her sister, her tone casual, almost cheerful. But then, her words cut through me like glass. "Don't worry about the kids, Audrey. His mom will watch them the entire night. 15 of them. Babies, toddlers, even the rowdy teenagers. She's perfect for it. She loves babysitting." My heart dropped. I stood there, silent, my fingers gripping the edge of the counter so hard the wood pressed deep into my skin. Babysitting? 15 children? The entire night? Tiffany's voice lowered, sly and calculated, but I could still hear every word through the open window. She won't even realize we're using her. Marcus already told her there would be kids around, and she immediately offered to help if needed. She's so eager to please. Honestly, it's like having a free professional nanny. And the best part? Since she'll be chasing after all those brats, she won't even eat much of the buffet she's preparing. I felt sick. My chest burned. The cookies in the oven suddenly smelled bitter, the sweetness turning to ash in my mouth. Her sister laughed, loud, careless, cruel. "That's brilliant, sis. Keep the old lady busy so she doesn't ruin the photos or meddle in conversations." "You're a genius. Old lady, useful, convenient." Those words echoed in my head. For 2 years, Tiffany had played the perfect daughter-in-law. Sweet smiles. "Flowers at my door. Let me help you with the dishes, Miss Charlotte." "You're amazing." And I believed her. I welcomed her. I even started calling her the daughter I never had. But now, I saw the mask slip. I pressed myself against the curtain, hidden but trembling. My son's voice came back into the conversation, warm, loving, unsuspecting. "What are you two laughing about?" "Oh, nothing," Tiffany replied instantly, her tone shifting into honey. "I was just telling Audrey how organized I am. Everything is taken care of. Even the children will be looked after." Marcus chuckled, proud. "My mom is an angel. She still has so much energy at her age. We're lucky to have her." Lucky. That word pierced me like a knife. He thought he was complimenting me, but he didn't realize he was confirming the trap. He didn't hear the malice in Tiffany's voice. He didn't see the smirk. I stumbled back from the window, my legs shaking, my breath shallow. I had been preparing to give them everything. My time, my money, my love. And all along they were planning to use me like free labor. A babysitter. A servant. I thought about my late husband, how proud he had been of me, how hard we worked to raise Marcus with values of respect and gratitude. And now? My own son was letting his fiancée treat me like a hired hand, without even asking me. I sank into a chair at the kitchen table, staring at my shopping list. Pounds of meat, trays of salad, desserts, decorations. $3,000 of my savings. For people who laughed about keeping me out of their way, my chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. But as I sat there, hands trembling, something shifted inside me. Anger. Cold, burning anger. The kind that doesn't make you shout, it makes you plan. I looked around at the flowers I had ordered, the ribbons and centerpieces stacked neatly in boxes, the recipes laid out on the counter. Every detail I had so lovingly prepared suddenly looked like evidence of my own humiliation. I whispered to myself, barely audible, "They think they're using me? They have no idea who they're dealing with." I stood, wiped the flour from my hands, and forced a smile when Tiffany walked back in a few minutes later, all charm and sweetness. "Miss Charlotte, don't overwork yourself with all this. Try to relax, you've done so much already." I nodded. "Of course, sweetie. Don't worry. Everything will be perfect." But in my mind, a new plan was already forming. If they wanted me to be the nanny at their wedding, I would give them a surprise they'd never forget. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I kept smiling on the outside, but inside I was boiling. After what I'd overheard, every word, every gesture from Tiffany felt like poison wrapped in silk. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying her voice in my head. It's like having a free professional nanny. Over and over, like a cruel echo. By sunrise, my pillow was damp with angry tears. The next morning, Tiffany came over with her perfect smile and a basket of muffins. "Thought you could use a treat," she said sweetly. I forced to thank you, but my hands trembled as I set them on the counter. All I could think was, how many times had I fallen for this act? I watched her carefully. Her movements were deliberate, placing the muffins right beside my shopping list, glancing at it as if by accident. "Oh, you've already planned so much. You really are incredible, Miss Charlotte." She said it kindly, but underneath I heard it. That tone of expectation, not gratitude, entitlement. Later that week, Marcus called me. "Mom, Tiffany says you've got everything under control." "You're amazing." His voice was full of pride, and it hurt me more than I could explain. Because he didn't see it. He couldn't see that Tiffany wasn't praising me. She was delegating. To him, my sacrifice was proof of love. To her, it was proof she could get away with more. By Thursday, I started noticing little cracks in her mask. She showed up at my house unannounced, talking loudly on her phone in the foyer. I only caught fragments. "Don't worry, Mom's covering it." "No, we don't have to hire anyone." "Yes, she's paying for that too." Her voice lowered when she saw me standing there, but the damage was done. She wasn't just using me as childcare, she was planning to stretch me thinner. Friday evening, I invited my best friend Loretta over for coffee. She's known me since high school, and I could never hide anything from her. She noticed my pale face immediately. "Charlotte, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." I told her everything. Every word Tiffany had said on the patio, every sly look since then. Loretta slammed her cup on the table so hard coffee sloshed over the edge. "That girl is a snake. You've spent months preparing this wedding, your money, your time, and she thinks you're her free nanny?" I nodded, swallowing hard. "And Marcus. He doesn't see it. He just thinks I'm being generous." Loretta leaned in. "Then you need to open his eyes. Before it's too late." I wanted to believe it would be simple. Just tell Marcus the truth and he'd understand. But every time I pictured his face, I froze. Would he believe me? Or would he think I was jealous, trying to ruin his happiness? The doubt gnawed at me. On Sunday, Tiffany and Marcus invited me to lunch at their place. Tiffany floated around the kitchen like a perfect hostess, serving roasted chicken and smiling at me across the table. But halfway through the meal, she turned to Marcus and said, "Honey, don't forget to tell your mom about the kids' corner at the reception." "Kids' corner?" My fork froze midair. Marcus chuckled. "Oh yeah, Mom. There'll be about 15 kids running around. But Tiffany already told everyone not to worry. You'll take care of them." "Isn't that great?" My stomach twisted. Tiffany smiled at me, wide-eyed, as if daring me to object. I forced a laugh. "We'll see, dear. I'll do what I can." Inside, my heart was pounding. So it's true. She's telling everyone I'm the babysitter. I excused myself to the bathroom, gripping the sink so tightly my knuckles turned white. My reflection stared back at me, red eyes, clenched jaw. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about one wedding. This was about respect, or the lack of it. When I came back to the table, Tiffany was already changing the subject, chatting about the photographer. Marcus looked happy, oblivious, and I sat there, silent, tasting the bitterness of betrayal with every bite. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at the neat stacks of receipts, florist, catering, decorations. Every dollar came from my pocket. My retirement savings, my future. And I asked myself, why am I the only one sacrificing? I picked up the phone to call Marcus, but my finger hovered over the button. I couldn't. Not yet. He wasn't ready to hear it, and I wasn't ready to beg my own son for respect. Instead, I whispered into the dark, "If they want to play games, I'll play too." But what kind of game? How far was I willing to go? That question kept me awake until dawn. And by sunrise, I knew. I was going to need a plan. By dawn, after another sleepless night, the answer came to me. If they wanted to play games, then I would play better. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of black coffee, staring at the pile of wedding receipts spread before me. $3,000 already gone. Food, flowers, ribbons, deposits. Every cent pulled from my savings. Money I could have used for my own future, my retirement, my dignity. And yet they treated me like a free employee. A servant in disguise. I picked up the phone. My fingers shook, but my voice was calm. Yes, hello. This is Charlotte Fitzgerald. I need to cancel my catering order for Saturday. The woman on the other end sounded surprised, even irritated. I explained softly, family emergency. A few small penalties, yes, but nothing compared to watching Tiffany smirk as I slaved away in her kitchen. One by one, I canceled everything. The florist. The bakery. Even the extra centerpieces I had promised as a gift. Each call felt like a weight lifting from my chest. For the first time in weeks, I felt control returning to my hands. Later that afternoon, I met Loretta at her favorite diner. I slid into the booth and whispered, "I've started." The caterer's gone. The flowers, too. Her eyes widened, then narrowed into a smile. "Charlotte, you're brilliant." I leaned closer. "I'll let them believe everything is still fine. Right up until the wedding. And then," I paused, savoring the thought, "then they'll learn what it feels like to be abandoned." Loretta chuckled, but her tone carried a note of warning. "You're sure you want to go through with this? Marcus is your only son." That reminder stung. But I thought about Tiffany's voice. The old lady won't even realize we're using her. The laughter. The cruelty. And Marcus, my son, smiling proudly, never questioning. That hurt more than anything. "Yes, Lo, I need to do this. If I don't, they'll never respect me again." By midweek, Tiffany stopped by my house. She was radiant, humming as she floated into the kitchen, her perfume filling the air. She glanced around at the shopping bags piled in the corner. "Oh, you've bought so much already. You really are a lifesaver." I forced a smile. "Just a few last things?" Inside, I was laughing. The bags were empty. Old props I had left out on purpose. Tiffany perched on a stool, scrolling through her phone. "Audrey says she can't wait for the wedding. She's so relieved you'll have the kids under control. We won't even notice them." She looked up at me with that same syrupy grin. "You really are the glue holding this together, Miss Charlotte." Glue, babysitter, servant. Whatever word she used, it all meant the same thing. That night, alone in my bedroom, I wrote the letter. I poured every ounce of hurt and betrayal into those pages. I explained what I'd overheard. I reminded Marcus of everything I'd given up to make his day perfect. And then, calmly, I told him the truth. The buffet would not arrive. The flowers would not arrive. And I would not arrive. At least not as their babysitter. I folded the letter neatly and placed it on the kitchen table, the same spot where Marcus always sat when he visited. As the days ticked down, my calmness grew. I made reservations at a lakeside spa. 2 full days of rest, meals, massages, facials. Everything I had been saving for the wedding buffet, I would now spend on myself. For the first time in decades, I was choosing me. But with each passing hour, guilt gnawed at me. I thought of Marcus's face when he read the letter. Would he finally see the truth? Or would he hate me forever? On Friday night, I zipped up a small suitcase. Just clothes for 2 days. My medications. A favorite book. As I placed it by the door, my phone buzzed. Marcus checking in. "Mom, how are preparations? Need me to carry anything tomorrow?" His voice was cheerful, clueless. I forced my tone steady. "No, son. Everything is perfect. Tomorrow will be unforgettable." When I hung up, my knees weakened. I leaned against the wall, whispering to myself, "Unforgettable, yes. But not in the way you expect." Later that night, Loretta called. "Are you packed?" "Yes. You're sure?" Silence stretched between us. Finally, I whispered, "Lo, once I start this, there's no going back. Marcus may never forgive me." Her voice was firm. "Charlotte, this isn't about revenge. It's about dignity. If you don't set boundaries now, they'll walk all over you for the rest of your life. I stared at the suitcase, my heart racing. She was right. But still, what if I lost my son forever? I closed my eyes, tears sliding down my cheeks. Tomorrow would decide everything. And I couldn't tell yet whether it would save me or destroy me. The morning of the wedding came like no other. I didn't wake to excitement or joy. I woke to silence, heavy, purposeful silence. By 5 o'clock, I was already out of bed, slipping into the coral dress I had saved for myself. Not the one for photographs. Not the one Tiffany approved of, my dress. A quiet act of rebellion stitched in bright fabric. I stood before the mirror, brushed my hair, and whispered, "Today I choose me." At 7 sharp, Loretta pulled into my driveway. She stepped out with a grin, holding 2 suitcases and a spark in her eyes. "So this is it," she said. I nodded, though my throat was tight. "Once we drive away, Lo, there's no undoing it." She squeezed my hand. "Charlotte, you've undone yourself for years. Today, you finally stop." We loaded the car. As the tires rolled over the gravel, I glanced back at my house, at the kitchen that should have been filled with trays of food, at the boxes of unused ribbons, the flowers I never ordered. All of it stayed behind, and with every mile we drove, the weight on my chest loosened. The spa was 2 hours away, tucked beside a wide blue lake. By 10, we had arrived. Manicured gardens welcomed us. Birdsong carried on the breeze. It felt like stepping into another world, one where I wasn't invisible, where I wasn't taken for granted. At 11, I lay on a massage table. Warm stones pressed into my back, and for the first time in months, my body let go. But even as the masseuse whispered, "Relax," my phone buzzed on the table beside me. Marcus. It buzzed again. And again. By noon, I counted 10 missed calls. I turned the phone face down. At lunch, Loretta and I sat on a terrace overlooking the water. "They'll be realizing by now," she said with a sly smile. No caterer. No flowers. No mom in the kitchen. I sipped my wine. And soon, no babysitter. By 1 o'clock, 20 missed calls. By 2:30, Tiffany's number flashing in between. Each vibration was like a drumbeat of panic, but I didn't answer. Not yet. At 3, I powered the phone back on. The screen lit up, 42 missed calls, 20 unread messages. My heart clenched as I scrolled. "Mom, please, where are you? The food isn't here." "Mom, the kids are screaming. Tiffany's crying. Guests are waiting." "Mom, I found your letter. Please, call me." I put the phone down. The lake shimmered in the distance. A breeze carried the scent of lavender from the gardens. I closed my eyes and whispered, "You wanted me invisible. Now you'll feel my absence." 4 o'clock. The ceremony was beginning. I pictured Tiffany forcing her smile, makeup cracking at the edges. Guests whispering, "Where's the groom's mother? Why is there no buffet? Why are children running wild?" At 4:15, the phone rang again. Marcus. I answered this time. "Mom!" His voice was frantic, broken. In the background, I heard chaos. Children shrieking, chairs scraping, someone shouting about food. "Where are you? Please tell me you're on your way." I leaned back in my chair, calm as the water before me. "I'm at a spa, son, having a massage. How's the wedding?" Silence. Then his voice cracked. "Mom, this can't be happening. Everyone's waiting. Tiffany's father is furious. What do I tell them?" I took a slow breath. "Tell them the truth. Tell them your mother is not the caterer, not the nanny, not the servant. Tell them your mother finally chose herself." There was another silence, heavier this time. Then Tiffany's voice broke through, shrill and desperate. "Charlotte, you can't do this. You promised. You're humiliating us in front of everyone." Her voice was no longer sweet. No more fake charm. This was the real Tiffany. Sharp, venomous, afraid. I stayed quiet, listening to her facade crumble. And as her words poured through the phone, One thought burned in my mind. The real confrontation hadn't even begun. Tiffany's voice screeched through the phone, sharp enough to make me pull it from my ear. "Charlotte, you can't do this to us. You're humiliating me in front of my entire family." I held the phone back up, my voice steady, almost calm. "No, Tiffany, I didn't do this to you. You did this to yourself." There was a pause, then a low growl in her throat. "What are you talking about?" I closed my eyes, letting the words pour out like poison I'd held too long. "I heard you, Tiffany. That day on the patio, you and your sister laughing. 15 kids dumped on me like I was a free nanny, talking about how I wouldn't even get to taste the food I was paying for, calling me an old lady to keep out of the way. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Silence. For a moment, all I could hear was the sound of children screaming in the background, voices rising in chaos. Then Tiffany snapped. "You weren't supposed to—" She stopped herself, breath heavy. "You misunderstood. I never—" "Don't lie to me," I cut in. My voice shook, but it wasn't from fear. It was from fury. "I know what I heard. You never wanted me at this wedding. You wanted my money, my food, my work, but not me." Marcus's voice broke through suddenly, pleading. "Mom, please stop. Don't do this right now. Everyone's staring. People are asking questions." I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. "And what do you tell them, Marcus? That your mother spent her life savings on a wedding where she wasn't even considered? A guest? That I was invited to cook and babysit but not to celebrate?" He stammered. "No, that's not—" But Tiffany snapped again, louder this time. "Oh, don't play the victim, Charlotte. You wanted to be involved. You insisted on planning everything, on controlling everything. All we did was let you. And now you're punishing us for it?" Her voice dripped with venom, but beneath it I heard panic, fear of being exposed. I let the silence stretch, long enough for her to sweat. Then I spoke, slow and sharp. "You never let me. You used me. And today, Tiffany, everyone will see it." The line went quiet, except for Marcus's labored breathing. Then muffled voices in the background, guests whispering, chairs scraping, Tiffany's father barking orders. I imagined the scene clearly. No food, restless children, angry relatives wondering why the groom's mother had vanished. Marcus came back on the line. His voice cracked like glass. "Mom, please, if you love me, come fix this." I pressed my hand to my chest, steadying myself. "I do love you, Marcus. But love doesn't mean letting people walk over me. One day, you'll understand that." Tiffany grabbed the phone again, her composure gone. "If you don't come right now, you'll regret it. You'll lose your son. You'll lose me. You'll be alone, Charlotte. Is that what you want?" Her threat was clear, cruel, and for a split second it pierced me, because she was right about one thing. I could lose Marcus. I could lose him completely. I lowered my voice, almost whispering, "If keeping my son means bowing to you, then maybe I already lost him." There was a gasp, hers or Marcus's, I couldn't tell. Before they could respond, I ended the call. The click echoed in my ears like a gavel striking wood. Final, irrevocable. I stared at the phone in my hand, my reflection dim in the black screen. My body trembled, a war raging inside me. Pride on one side, fear on the other. Loretta touched my shoulder gently. What did she say? I swallowed hard, fighting tears. She threatened me, said I'd lose my son if I don't crawl back. Loretta's voice was soft but firm. So now you know who she really is. I turned toward the lake, watching the water ripple under the late afternoon sun. My chest ached with doubt. Had I gone too far? Was I teaching them a lesson, or destroying my only family? The wedding was still underway. Guests were still there. The chaos was still unfolding. And in that quiet moment by the water, one haunting question consumed me. Would Marcus choose me, or would he choose her? I sat frozen on the porch steps after ending that call, Tiffany's words still buzzing in my ears. You'll lose your son. You'll be alone. They looped in my head like a curse, even as the lake breeze cooled my face. Loretta leaned forward, her hand warm on mine. Charlotte, don't let her scare you. If Marcus can't see the truth now, he will soon. Trust me. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to hold on to that hope. But as night settled in around the spa, doubt seeped in. What if Tiffany was right? What if Marcus chose her completely and left me behind? By evening, the missed calls grew unbearable. I finally checked the voicemails. Some were Marcus, his voice desperate, almost broken. But others were different, unexpected. Elaine, my sister-in-law, who'd never once sided with me in family matters, sounded breathless. Charlotte, I don't know what happened, but Tiffany is falling apart. The food never came. Kids are running wild. Guests are furious. People are saying she mishandled everything. Some even whispered she exploited you. Did she? My chest tightened. The humiliation Tiffany meant for me was bouncing back onto her. For once, people were seeing her without the sugarcoating. At 9 o'clock, just as I was pouring myself a glass of wine, Marcus's message finally came. 5 words. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Sleep never came. My mind tossed and turned with questions. Was tomorrow an olive branch? Or a battlefield? The next morning, I drove home alone. Loretta hugged me tight in the parking lot. Stand your ground. Don't fold, Charlotte. Not this time. The closer I got to my house, the heavier my chest felt. And there he was, Marcus, sitting on the porch steps in his wrinkled wedding suit, his head in his hands. I parked slowly, my palms slick on the wheel. Marcus! My voice cracked. He looked up. His face was hollow, eyes bloodshot. Mom, how could you? His voice broke in the middle. Do you know what you did to me yesterday? I swallowed hard. Do you know what you and Tiffany tried to do to me? He shook his head. No. She wouldn't. I cut him off. I overheard her, Marcus. On the patio, she laughed with her sister about dumping 15 kids on me like I was a babysitter. She mocked me, said I wouldn't even taste the food I was paying for. And you... My voice wavered. You smiled while she called me an angel, never noticing the knife she was planting in my back. Marcus's mouth opened, but no words came. I reached into my bag and pulled out the letter, the same one I'd left behind. I pressed it into his shaking hands. Read it again, son. Every word is true. I couldn't keep giving while being treated like a servant. He stared down at the paper, his jaw trembling. At the wedding, Tiffany told guests you got sick, but then Aunt Elaine said she overheard her admitting you canceled things. People started whispering. My in-laws were furious. They said Tiffany ruined the day. A cold wind swept across us. For the first time, I saw something new flicker in his eyes. Not anger at me, but doubt. Doubt toward her. Marcus, I said softly, almost pleading, I've given everything for you. But yesterday, for once, I chose myself. If that makes me the villain in Tiffany's story, so be it. His face crumpled. Mom, Tiffany swears she never said those things. She says you twisted it because you hate her. She says you wanted to embarrass her. I leaned forward, tears burning in my eyes. Do you really think I'd lie to you, Marcus? After everything I've done for you? After all these years? He pressed his hands over his face. His shoulders shook, torn between two loyalties. The silence between us grew unbearable. And as I stood there, watching my only son caught in her web, one thought hollowed me out completely. What if Tiffany still had enough power to turn him against me forever? I stood on the porch, watching Marcus bury his face in his hands. My chest ached, but I didn't move. The silence between us was heavier than anything Tiffany had ever thrown my way. Finally, he lifted his head. Mom, I don't know what to believe. His voice cracked. She swears you're lying. She says you hate her. And he swallowed hard. She says you ruined the wedding on purpose to humiliate her in front of her family. I clenched my fists. Ruined it? Marcus, she ruined me. piece by piece. She stripped away my dignity while I poured everything into making your day beautiful. And now that her mask slipped, she wants to blame me. Before he could answer, a car pulled up at the curb. A sleek black sedan. The passenger door swung open, and Tiffany stepped out, still in her white wedding dress, though it was wrinkled, smeared with dirt at the hem. Her hair hung limp, makeup streaked from tears. But even in her ruin, she held her chin high. She stormed up the walkway, ignoring me, eyes fixed on Marcus. "There you are. I've been calling all morning." Then she turned, her eyes narrowing at me like daggers. "Of course. You're here," spinning lies. Marcus stood, his shoulders tense. "Tiff, please." "No, Marcus," she snapped, her voice shrill. "She's manipulating you. Don't you see? She couldn't stand that I planned a wedding without her approval. So she sabotaged it. She canceled everything behind our backs. Who does that to their own son?" Her words burned, but I didn't flinch. "I did it," I said calmly, "because you wanted a servant, not a mother. And you thought no one would notice." Tiffany laughed bitterly. "Notice? Everyone noticed yesterday. They noticed that the groom's mother was missing, that the buffet never arrived, that the kids ran wild like animals. Do you know how humiliated I was? How humiliated we were." Something in her tone shifted. It wasn't about Marcus. It was about her reputation. And Marcus heard it too. His eyes flickered, confused, wounded. I took a step closer. "Tell him, Tiffany. Tell him what you said to your sister. That I was perfect for babysitting 15 children. That I wouldn't even get to eat the food I paid for. That I was just convenient." Her lips parted just for a second, a flicker of fear. Then she forced a laugh. "You're delusional," making things up to turn him against me. But from the porch, another voice cut in. Elaine. She had pulled up behind Tiffany, standing by her car door with her arms crossed. "No, Tiffany. She's not making it up." Tiffany spun around. "What are you talking about?" Elaine's voice was cold, steady. "I heard you. At the reception. You told one of your cousins that Charlotte was supposed to handle all the kids. You even joked that she'd be too busy chasing toddlers to bother anyone. You said it loud enough for half the table to hear." Marcus's face drained of color. He looked from Elaine to Tiffany, his hands trembling. "Tiff, is that true?" Tiffany stammered. "No, she's twisting my words." But Elaine didn't stop. "And when the food didn't arrive, you panicked. You told everyone Charlotte sabotaged it out of spite. But the truth is, you built the entire wedding on her back. And when she walked away, the whole thing collapsed." Tiffany's mask cracked completely. She turned on Elaine, her voice shrieking. "You've always hated me. You're jealous because Marcus chose me. You're trying to poison him against me." Marcus stepped forward, his voice shaking but sharp. "Enough." The silence that followed was deafening. Tiffany froze, her chest heaving. "Is it true?" he asked again, his voice lower this time, filled with hurt. "Did you really say those things about my mom?" Her lips trembled. She opened her mouth, but no words came. For the first time, Tiffany, the woman who always had an answer, a mask, a performance, was speechless. I felt my breath catch. This was the moment. The cracks were wide open. Marcus could finally see what I had seen all along. But then, his eyes shifted, his shoulders sagging. He looked at me with pain that cut deeper than anything Tiffany could have done. "Even if she did, Mom, even if she said all that, you still ruined my wedding. You humiliated me. In front of everyone." The words shattered me. Tiffany's lips curled into the faintest smirk, as if she knew she'd planted just enough doubt to keep her hold on him. And in that moment I realized the battle wasn't over. It had only just begun. Marcus's words hung in the air like a blade. "You still ruined my wedding. You humiliated me." I felt the ground tilt beneath me. For a second I couldn't even breathe. Tiffany's smirk deepened at the corner of her mouth, small but triumphant. She thought she had won. I steadied myself. "Marcus," I said quietly, "I didn't humiliate you. I saved myself. And if my absence exposed the truth about Tiffany, then maybe it wasn't me ruining anything. Maybe it was the lies finally unraveling. but he shook his head, pacing the porch like a trapped animal. Do you have any idea how it felt? Standing there in front of hundreds of people. No food, no order, children screaming, guests leaving. They looked at me like I was a fool, like I couldn't even control my own life. His voice cracked, almost a sob. And it was my own mother who pulled the rug from under me. My chest ached. I never wanted to hurt you, but I couldn't let her keep using me. Tiffany stepped closer, clutching Marcus's arm like a prize she refused to let go of. See, she admits it. She didn't care about you, Marcus. She only cared about making a scene. That's who she is. Jealous, bitter, controlling. I turned on her, heat flooding my voice. Jealous? Bitter? Tiffany, I was the one paying for your dream wedding. I gave my time, my money, my peace. And you laughed at me behind my back. She sneered. Because you made yourself a doormat. And now you're shocked people walked on you? The cruelty of her words cut me, but for once I didn't flinch. Marcus did. His face hardened, his body stiffening under her grip. Elaine, still lingering by the car, called out, Enough, Tiffany. Everyone saw yesterday. You blamed Charlotte for everything, but it was your arrogance that destroyed the day. The family won't forget it. Tiffany's head snapped toward her, fury blazing. Stay out of this. You've hated me from the beginning. Marcus pulled his arm free, his voice shaking. Stop it, both of you. He looked at me, then at Tiffany, torn in two. I whispered, almost pleading, Son, you have to see her for who she really is. He closed his eyes, his breathing uneven. All I see is that I'm stuck between the woman I married and the mother who raised me. And I don't know who's telling me the truth anymore. The words sliced through me worse than any insult. My own son, unsure if he could trust me. Tiffany seized the moment. Marcus, you don't need her. She's toxic. She'll keep trying to control you, ruin us, embarrass us. If you let her stay in your life, she'll keep dragging us down. We need to cut ties before she poisons our marriage completely. Her demand was blatant now. A final push, me or her. Marcus's eyes flickered with panic. He looked at me, his lips trembling. Mom, I can't lose you. But I can't lose her either. I stepped closer, my voice soft but firm. You might not have a choice, son. Because one of us has been lying to you from the very beginning, and deep down you already know which one. The silence was suffocating. Only the rustle of leaves and the distant hum of traffic filled the air. Marcus looked between us, his face pale, as if the weight of the world sat on his shoulders. Finally, he whispered, I need time. I need to think. He turned and walked down the steps, his hands raking through his hair. Tiffany rushed after him, her heels clicking on the pavement. Marcus, don't let her twist you. If you walk away now, you'll regret it. But he didn't stop. He just kept walking, his figure shrinking down the street, leaving both of us standing in the wreckage. I watched him disappear, my heart splintering. For the first time, I felt the true cost of my choice. I had fought for my dignity, but I might have lost my son. Tiffany turned to me, her eyes cold, her voice low. Enjoy your little victory, Charlotte, because when he comes back, he'll choose me. And when he does, you'll have nothing. Her words hung in the air like smoke, bitter and suffocating. And as I stood there alone on the porch, one thought chilled me to the bone. What if she was right? I stood frozen on the porch long after Tiffany's car pulled away. Her parting words haunted me. When he comes back, he'll choose me. And when he does, you'll have nothing. That night I barely slept. The house felt emptier than it had in years, shadows pressing in from every corner. I kept staring at my phone, waiting for Marcus to call, to text, to say something. But the screen stayed dark. The next morning, I dragged myself into the kitchen. I made coffee, though my hands shook so badly I spilled half of it on the counter. Just as I sat down, my phone buzzed. Marcus. Finally. But it wasn't his voice. It was a message. I need space. Don't call me. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. He was slipping away, just like Tiffany wanted. Later that afternoon, Elaine stopped by. She didn't even knock, just walked in, her heels clicking across my floor. She carried a folder in her hands. Charlotte, she said, her voice clipped, you need to see this. I frowned. What is it? She opened the folder, spreading papers across my table. Bank statements, receipts, wedding invoices. My eyes widened. Where did you get these? She leaned in. My husband and I started asking questions after yesterday. Tiffany's father was furious about the catering collapse, so he demanded to see the contracts. Guess what? Tiffany lied. She told them you had canceled everything to spite her. But the truth is, she never finalized half of the payments. She pocketed some of the cash Marcus gave her. I felt my stomach drop. You mean she stole from him? Elaine nodded grimly. And from you. Look at this. She pointed at a receipt. She charged you double for the flower arrangements and kept the difference. That's why she pushed so hard for you to cover things. She was skimming the entire time. I gripped the edge of the table, my pulse racing. It wasn't just manipulation. It was theft, deception. Elaine's voice lowered. Marcus doesn't know yet. He's devastated, confused. But when he sees these, he won't be able to deny what she's done. The next day, word began spreading through the family. Cousins whispered about Tiffany's meltdown. Aunts complained about the ruined reception. And now, rumors of missing money trickled in. The perfect image Tiffany had built for 2 years was crumbling fast. By midweek, Marcus showed up at my door. His face was pale, his eyes hollow, but he carried the same folder Elaine had given me. He dropped it on the table between us. Mom, is this true? I nodded slowly. Yes, Marcus. She used me. And she used you too. He sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. I confronted her last night. She denied everything. Said you planted the receipts, that Elaine forged documents to frame her. She swore she loved me, that she'd never steal from me. His voice broke. But Mom, I don't know what to believe anymore. I reached for his hand, but he pulled it back, shaking his head. Part of me wants to run, to get away from all of this. But another part, I still love her. She's my wife. The words hit me like ice. Even faced with the truth, Tiffany's hold on him was strong. That evening, I received another message, but not from Marcus. From one of Tiffany's cousins. She's trying to spin the story. She says you're jealous and want to ruin her marriage. But people aren't buying it anymore. Too many saw her panic. Too many heard her slip. I set the phone down, my heart pounding. The tide was turning. But it wasn't enough. Tiffany was still clawing for control, still whispering poison into Marcus's ear. The next morning, I made a decision. If the truth was going to come out, it couldn't be whispered in kitchens or pieced together from receipts. It needed to be undeniable. Public. I looked at the folder one last time and whispered, if she wants a war of humiliation, then I'll give her one. But as I stood there, staring at my reflection in the kitchen window, one question rattled inside me. Could my son survive the truth? If it meant destroying the woman he loved? The folder of receipts and contracts felt heavier than any suitcase I'd ever carried. It wasn't just paper. It was truth. Evidence. Proof that every cruel suspicion I'd had about Tiffany was real. The family gathering that weekend was tense. Aunts, uncles, cousins, they all showed up with whispers still fresh from the ruined wedding. Marcus stood at the center of it all, pale and exhausted. Tiffany was at his side, dressed perfectly as always, her smile stretched thin like cracking paint. I walked in with the folder clutched in my arms. My legs trembled, but I steadied myself. Today wasn't about vengeance. It was about survival. Tiffany's voice rang out the moment she saw me. There she is, the woman who sabotaged her own son's wedding. Her words were sharp, rehearsed, dripping with practiced outrage. Do you know what she did? She canceled everything out of spite. She humiliated us all. A few relatives murmured, shifting uncomfortably. Some looked at me with pity, others with doubt. I stepped forward, my voice calm but firm. No, Tiffany, I didn't ruin your wedding. You did. And now it's time everyone knows the truth. I placed the folder on the table and opened it, spreading the documents out for all to see. Bank transfers, inflated invoices, double charges. Tiffany didn't just use me. She stole from Marcus. From his future. From all of us. Gasps rippled through the room. Elaine stepped in, her tone crisp. I saw it with my own eyes. Tiffany pocketed money meant for the caterer. She lied to her own family to cover her tracks. Marcus's face drained of color as he stared at the papers. His hands trembled when he picked one up, reading line after line. "Tiff, tell me this isn't true." Tiffany's mask cracked. "They're lying. This is a setup. Your mother's been against me from the start." But her voice was too high, too frantic, and the room had already turned. Whispers grew louder, eyes narrowing, heads shaking. Years of her perfect act crumbled in minutes. Marcus's chest rose and fell like he was drowning. Finally, he looked at her, really looked, and whispered, "You made me choose." "And you lied." His voice broke. "You lied to me, Tiffany." Her face twisted with rage. "You're pathetic. Letting your mother control you like a child. You'll regret this, Marcus. You'll regret it for the rest of your life." She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus stood frozen, his hands still clutching the papers. Then slowly, his knees buckled. He sat down, covering his face, his shoulders shaking. I wanted to rush to him, to hold him like I did when he was small. But I didn't, not yet. Some lessons he had to face on his own. Later that week, Tiffany's family demanded answers. When they saw the receipts, the canceled contracts, the missing money, they cut ties with her. Vendors threatened legal action. And just like that, the woman who had built her entire life on appearances found herself isolated. As for Marcus, he came to me one evening weeks later. He stood on my porch, his eyes red but clearer than I'd seen them in years. "Mom, I'm sorry." His voice trembled. "You were right about her." I didn't want to believe it. "But you were right." I hugged him then, holding him as tightly as I could. "You had to see it for yourself," I whispered. Life didn't magically return to normal. Scars don't fade overnight. Trust doesn't rebuild in a single apology. But something shifted that day. My son finally saw me, not as a servant, not as a safety net, but as his mother. A woman who deserved respect. And me? I learned something too, that choosing myself wasn't selfish. It was survival. It was dignity. One evening, I sat alone on my porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in streaks of gold. The house was quiet. My heart still carried bruises, but it beat stronger now. I wasn't the same woman who had been laughed at on the patio. I had found my voice, and even though the road ahead was uncertain, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I would never let anyone silence me again. This was my story. Don't forget to subscribe.